Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm joined by Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations, Elyse King, to discuss Light and Magic Season 2. If you are a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Also, please be sure to check out our T Public store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone, and thrilled to be back talking Star Wars, or at least Star Wars adjacent things here, with the incredible Light and Magic Season 2. And I'm a big fan of this documentary. I hope you are a fan too. We really enjoyed Season 1, and the fact that we got a Season 2 is just icing on top of the cake here. Now, we do talk in this episode a little bit about like the release schedule of it and all that, and how it came out in a blur of other Lucasfilm-related things, Andor Season 2, Star Wars Celebration, Tales of the Underworld. Even the Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary re-release was basically all at the same time here. So I feel like it got lost in the shuffle a little bit here, but we're happy to finally get to talking about it here too. And we of course have our guest, Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations herself, Elyse King, is back on the program to chat about this incredible documentary series and to give her insights on it too, which we very much value here on the show, and really appreciate having her back on to just have a great time. So full spoiler warning ahead for Light and Magic Season 2. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you go check it out on Disney Plus and then come right back to this point in time. You don't want to be spoiled to anything, even though they really talk about films from 20 plus years ago. But a lot of great stuff in the documentary, and we go into some pretty good detail and thought about all the things that we saw in the series. So this is typically where we do the news of the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy that's happened over the past week. And basically, I'm recording this episode in advance, so therefore, I don't know what news has taken place over the past week here. So, whatever news has happened during this week, we will cover it in next week's episode. So, be on lookout for that. And of course, on the other side of the short break, we'll be back with our discussion on Light and Magic Season 2. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed our summer, basically, of Jaws discussions there, where we went through the entirety of the Jaws franchise and then some for its 50th anniversary celebration. And now it's time to get back into the bread and butter of this podcast, so to speak, the Star Wars, right? We are Force Ghost Conversations. We are a Star Wars podcast. And we do touch upon the Lucasfilm things too there. But first and foremost, we are a Star Wars thing. And we're back into the Star Wars for a little bit here of it all. And we're here to talk Light and Magic Season 2. Yes, that documentary that dropped right in the middle of Star Wars Celebration that I hope you got a chance to check out. I hope it didn't get logged into the log jam that is Disney Plus sometimes. I mean, with all the news and announcements that came out with Star Wars Celebration and then literally Tales of the Underworld and Andor Season 2 all at the same time, basically. I think that this documentary series got left behind a little bit in that. But we are here with a guest, and you haven't been actually on the show for quite some time. But when we watched this documentary, you said, I need to be the guest for these episodes. And rightfully so, I said yes. So welcome back to the podcast, Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations, Elyse King. Elyse, how are you doing? And welcome back.
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be back.
You were such a big fan of season 1 of Light and Magic. So that's my first question here is why did ILM's story resonate with you so much?
I know I'm not the number one fan in the whole world, but I'm a pretty big fan for not knowing anything about ILM before. And I would say I think it resonates with me a lot because it is storytellers like living out storytelling. I love fantasy books, and so you always hear about authors talk about world building, but with ILM, you get to see the world building and you get to see how it plays out not only in the context of the story, but also in the context of the world in which they're actually developing it. So seeing the technology change, seeing audience reaction, what, the Hollywood trends are, like the directors that are, asking for their services. It's storytelling come to life in the most visceral way. So I love that. I love like understanding every decision that was made behind stuff. And for the most part, it makes going to the movies more enriching. I just can really tell CG errors now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's the only downside.
Yeah, it is. And you also like the fact that these people that are literally working their 9 to 5s are now rock stars because of this story being told.
Yeah. I'm again like I didn't know any of these people existed, and now I know how much of their like heart and soul was poured in stuff I loved. And then you see them come out at like D23 or any of the other conventions, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's him. He created Photoshop.
Yeah, literally.
And it's like the most technology nerdy thing I've ever liked before, which is kind of new for me.
Following what we saw in season 1, did you think that there would be a season 2 forthcoming?
No, honestly. I mean, they kind of wrapped up the end, right? They got all the way through the early
I
2000s and
mean, they
stuff.
got to the Mandalorian in the
Yeah.
volume in the end of season 1. Now you could argue,
I mean,
boy, did they rush Jurassic
yeah,
Park onward.
we left the last two episodes being like, oh, okay, like we have a full story, not upset, but would always love more.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like they heard us.
Somewhere in the ether, they heard
We manifested.
our the you know at the beginning of Justice League, the when Superman dies, the
Yep, the reverberation
yes,
across
yes,
time and
the
space.
sound of the waking up the mother boxes, and that was us at the end of season 1 being like, a season 2 would be cool, and
Yep,
it echoed
exactly.
across
All
the
the
all
way to
time and space
California.
to yep to the powers that be at Lucasfilm and Disney to say, yeah, let's do a second season of this.
Did you, I mean, you knew a little bit about ILM, but were you as aware? Like
Of like
was
this
this show
story,
surprising? Yeah, this the story behind it?
there were a lot of tidbits that I wasn't aware of. I think the biggest one will be learning how much Ahmad Best was involved with like the Yoda fight in Attack of the Clones, right? Like you get kind of those
Yeah.
story bits throughout this, and we this is very much an era that you and I grew up with. Like these are very much and a lot of the movies they talk about are the foundation of us.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So it's like,
I saw
okay,
Jurassic Park when I was 4. Yeah. Prequel
like
girl.
it would hardly be a summer if Pirates of the Caribbean did not come on at
Yeah.
all, right? And we always talk about how great the CGI is um, of Davy Jones, and seeing how that comes together was pretty cool. And we'll get into that in just a little bit here, but yeah, there are a lot of things that I'm like, oh, I didn't really know that, or they go into more specifics about some of these things, right? I watch a lot of the behind the scenes documentaries when they come with like especially like the Phantom Menace one, which I think they spend the most amount of time on in terms of a Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
in this. So like to see George at the whiteboard, right, where he's like, "This is real. This isn't real. This is real. This isn't real." Like that's not a new thing to me seeing that, but um, there are a lot of great stories in this, and new people I think too that I had never known that they worked at Lucasfilm. Like I think you and I had very much had that almost like couple of seconds of pause, and then we looked at each other and we go, "Is that the guy from Heroes?"
Yeah.
Did he work at ILM too?
There were quite a few people that work at ILM where I was like, I thought he did something else. And you're
Yeah,
like, oh, they're just that talented.
I mean, people can have multifaceted lives and experiences. I mean, John Knoll's one of them, right? This visual effects supervisor that just
For
in his
sure.
spare time just says like, "Hey, I guess I'll make Photoshop."
Or the guy who also directed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and all that stuff.
Joe Johnston, who actually is the
The,
showrunner of this season two
yep.
here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all the through lines here. And speaking of through lines, season 2 is very much about the prequel trilogy. Very much so how season 1 talked a lot about the original trilogy, and that's how it got that ball rolling with this. But this was episodes 1, 2, 3. With the increase in visual effects, do you think that this season did a good job at explaining these kind of graduate and doctoral level concepts to us normal people?
I mean, I don't know at some level if you can. I mean, they did their best. in terms of like the actual technology. There were a couple of times where I was like, you have to pause. I need to talk out
Mm-hmm.
loud what I just heard
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
can like grasp what they're saying,
Yeah.
especially as a liberal arts person.
Sure.
But I think more importantly than like explaining the scientific and technological concepts, it was like they brought the human back to it all.
Mm.
Because, like you said, with Jar Jar and even with Anakin and Obi-Wan, like, or Maul or like whoever, like the people are what made audiences believe it was real.
Yeah.
Like there was always this big theme of, yeah, we can do it in the computer, but what makes a human believe it's real? Because we know very clearly when it's
Mm-hmm.
like that doesn't feel right, even if we can't say why it doesn't. Like when they talk about the water and like how to make
Yeah.
water
Yeah.
move in all these ways. I don't know. I really felt for all these creators because, you know, we get caught up in the story. Does the story make sense? That I like the acting? Were the costumes cool? And like you kind of take for granted everything else that's on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then like this always is I like ILM because it's a good reminder of like just how hard being the first is.
Yeah.
And like,
It's not easy.
I mean, you've talked about on your podcast and we talk about it offline of just like how much crap the prequel trilogy got sometimes
Mm-hmm.
in the moment, and now like it's having its like heyday, which I'm so excited about. But like it was so hard being number one of trying to do all this stuff that had never been
Yeah.
done before, and
Yeah.
frankly was done better than stuff like 5 or 7 years later. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I liked how they overall kept it like really human centered rather than let's get into the nitty gritty. Although it was fascinating, like learning about how water moved and how wind moved and stuff like
Yeah. To be
that.
like, this is how we do a tornado.
But it was also interesting because it was like, okay, it's a tornado, it's water, it's not a human, but it was a character. Like in
Mm-hmm.
Twister, the tornado is the main character. In that movie with water,
Yeah, that's the villain there. The
that's the
perfect storm.
villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if you don't get those quote unquote characters right, the movie's dumb.
Falls
It
apart.
falls apart. It's
Yeah.
flat.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they did good enough that if you're interested now, you can sign up for many computer science courses to delve even further into the coding of it all. But for us, we have enough, and we're good enough to walk the rest of our lives and never go any further into the subject.
Will I ever understand that someone thought that they could talk to a machine and teach the machine how to talk back? No. I will never understand that.
No, no. Well, I'm glad that you brought up the Jar Jar Binks of it all, and front and center of any visual effects discussion, especially when the prequels, is Jar Jar. How do you think the documentary did in handling the nuances and perspectives of the people who brought him to life?
I mean, I think the documentary did an astounding job.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, we know Ahmad Best like had such a dark period in his life.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand how he had really embedded himself in the character. I kind of thought he was just the scapegoat
Mm-hmm.
of like, oh, I was just in costume to like be that character and I love it, but it wasn't my character.
Mm-hmm.
But it was his character.
You can't deny it. You can't separate them.
And I really appreciated understanding that
Mm-hmm.
because now that I think about it, how is an animator or a computer scientist going to sit there and think of Jar Jar's movements without having a performer bring it to life?
Mm-hmm.
Because even in like that Frozen documentary we saw, someone had to like
Do their own faces and
animate.
run and
Yeah, they had to run and skateboard
yeah.
so they could see how Elsa would run and stuff like that. Like you need inspiration and a reference. And he created something completely new and fun. And I think it was really unfair that the same problem that everyone has with Star Wars landed on one person, which is we forget that this needs to be like available and accessible to children,
Mm-hmm.
whether it has adult themes or not.
Yeah.
So you need a mix of both types of appeal.
Exactly.
And that you can't see that. And also, who doesn't love like Jar Jar's like Dobby from Harry Potter, like that innocent, pure heart who's going to save his friends no matter what.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think it showed me that for as much as we need technology to build amazing stories, we also need the humans to make it sing.
I mean, you don't get Gollum a few years later without the groundbreaking work that is Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, and even on the technology aspect, like you just said, like we don't get Dobby, we don't get Gollum, we don't get
Any number of Davy Jones, right? Any number of
yeah.
characters in the time since, right? This is a seminal moment in film history.
And I get it because in a movie, like the marketing campaign isn't going to focus on the tech behind it
No, they can't.
outside of saying like we're the first CG movie or
Yeah,
whatever. But man, I wish it was a story audiences could have digested because I think it would have made people kinder.
I think so, and it's a shame is that so much of it fell on his shoulders, and for many years that was the if you're going to pick one aspect of the prequel trilogy that you don't like, all of it was funneled into majorly into one character or thought, right? And it all centered around Jar Jar, and that society deemed that okay for so long,
Yeah.
which was wrong.
Yeah, I was totally wrong. I was glad that like George was pretty grumpy about it. I feel like as long it didn't protect Ahmed from it, but I hope he found an ally like on the back end because it seems like George never wavered in what the vision
Yeah,
was.
yeah,
And at the
I,
end of the day, it is someone's vision.
yeah. George was like,
It's not
it's
like Ahmed Best signed off on everything unilaterally.
right, right. I thought that was a great sequence in this where visual effects supervisor Rob Coleman was like, I can't sleep at night. This is keeping me up. I the weight of the expectation is harming me personally and physically. And then he goes to talk to George about it, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like the expectation." He's like, "I'm happy with your work, and that's all that matters. I
Yeah.
I'm fronting the bill for this. I'm the director. Um, my name's attached to this thing. It's plastered all over this. If people don't like it, then they're going to yell at me. They're not going to yell at you. But unfortunately, I think Ahmad Best got more of the hate than George did for a lot of that. And where George was like, I can handle this for
He learned how to
I've
do
dealt
it
with this
30
for
years
40
later.
years at show business, baby. What one person has hardened skin for, another one may not.
And then be their first time and they hadn't
Yeah.
learned it
Yeah,
yet.
and they think they're having this grand breakout role that it's supposed to be, and it is,
I mean,
but
I
for the
think
wrong reasons.
that's what makes me so sad about the prequels is we had a whole group of actors who I think weren't given the right shot.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think it's amazing to see how computers can capture a spirit, but you do need someone to bring that spark
Mm-hmm.
or it just feels fake.
Yeah. I mean, like we've had Ken Knapsack on the show a couple times, and he'll talk about like with between him and his buddies and just that generation, right, that grew up with the original trilogy. They were kids then. They're like, as soon as we clamored for all these years and we wanted more Star Wars, and then we finally got it, and then we tried to kill it.
Yeah, it's like that thing of thinking you're never going to grow up. Like everyone says when what's that line from Breakfast Club, when you grow up you die?
You tell me, I've only seen one, so
Oh yeah.
I trust
Well,
you.
the Brat Pack fan over here. Yeah, there's this line that's like I don't want to grow up. I'm paraphrasing, but because when you grow up, you die.
Hmm.
And it's like your soul dies or whatever.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of effort to cling to that wonder and that joy.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think the prequel showed that a generation definitely lost it.
I mean, they wanted it to age with them without realizing that that's not the point.
Yeah, I'm like, they wanted Andor before it was ready.
Yeah, and of course there should be a space for things like Andor, but that shouldn't be all of Star Wars, and particularly the main
I would argue the
line.
movies are never going to be an
And they shouldn't
Andor.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
So overall, I, all these years later, truly appreciate all these stories coming out and that there are fans wanting to learn more. And we see at conventions, Ahmad Best is being cheered and
mm-hmm.
beloved. So it's a happier ending now.
Yeah,
But
he is Star Wars in many ways now.
I love seeing Jar Jar used as like the case study of how to make animated character great.
Here, here. Now, with the digital revolution following Jurassic Park, this documentary focused on a few films outside of Star Wars, such as Pirates of the Caribbean, Rango, Twister, A Perfect Storm, just to name a few, and we've actually touched upon a few of those already. Do you have any more thoughts about the insights shared about producing these movies?
It was interesting. I never watched Rango before.
Mm-hmm.
And I found it interesting because you think animated and you're like, been there, done that all the
Yeah, yeah.
time. I liked how it forced ILM to kind of reckon that they need a myriad of types of artists,
Yep.
not just the computer graphics people. They need animators, they need
Mm-hmm.
computer graphics, they need physical, like they need all this stuff. And I also just like really empathize for them of like licking an eyeball takes forever, or
Yeah.
sequencing a wave takes 3 months and they had hundreds of waves. Like it's just the amount of work for something we don't pay attention to, but then if it sucks, then it's all we pay attention to.
Right. And we'll hyper focus on it.
Every time they brought up, I was like, they can't top that challenge, like Davy Jones with the individual tentacles. And then they're like, by the way, we have to learn how to create water. And I was like, oh my gosh, water moves in a million ways.
Yeah, John Knoll trying to figure out the maelstrom at the
Yeah.
at World's End was like he's like, oh great, now I have to have these two ships in this cyclone. How do I figure
Yeah.
this out?
Or Twister, when it's like, oh, when things are picked up in the Twister, it needs to seem like it has weight, but also
Mm-hmm.
how do you make
Mm-hmm.
it seem small or big? And like, what's the appropriate scale? It's just like, dang, they are just master problem solvers. And every time I thought they had, oh, they've solved how to make water move, they think of something else.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting that you brought up Rango because as much as it is them realizing, okay, we need to focus on these areas. When you focus on certain areas, that means you lose focus on other areas, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, I think one of the things that when we watched it, I literally said out loud, like, "Oh wow, I never realized there was a lot of practical things on Revenge of the Sith. Like there, the creature shop and the model shop was still open, and then as soon as I said that, they're like, and then we got canned pretty shortly after that to make way
Yeah.
for more digital effects artists and the computer science people and the animators. I
Yeah. It was like, oh, I'm so glad they're still there. Oh, wah,
was like,
wah.
oh, I gave you guys the kiss of death before you even
Finish the
even I
story.
couldn't even finish the sentence, and then you're gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It was, I can't imagine the pressure of producing those
I
movies.
can't either. I mean,
They
show
talk
business,
about it
baby.
with like a nice like review mirror of nostalgia, but I'm like,
Yeah, ask them 2 weeks after you're fired,
yeah.
and you
Uh,
just you thought you had the best job in the world. Maybe you thought you had the best job in the world, right? A job that people would like, you know, cut off a toe for, right?
I seriously think people would. They
Yeah,
want that pressure. They want that challenge.
like oh, I get to work on potentially Star Wars.
Yeah. And then they're like, I was not well
Mm-hmm.
for months and months. I was not well.
Yep, I was throwing up every day, just the pressure and weight of it all, and yeah, I can only imagine what that was like.
Was there one movie or like trick or problem they had to solve that really surprised you or stuck with you?
Well, I think the Mustafar, the lava, was really cool to see,
Oh
and how that
yeah.
was a practical effect
What
rather
was the
than
thing they put in
was
the?
cork.
That's right. It's so
Yeah,
smart.
they turned the cork into lava, and then they added like some black paint here and there to make it look
Much more cost effective than rendering for
rendering. And
months and
could you
months.
imagine? They had so much trouble with water, like trying to make lava.
The weight of lava, yeah.
The weight, the heat, the
The ooey
yeah,
gooey.
just how we all think of lava in our heads, and to recreate that, it's like we don't see the effect and go, "Ooh, that's not real."
I know it's not even something most of us have seen, and yet we all know exactly what it's like.
Yeah, yeah, we all have this great picture in our head of a volcano erupting and hell falling down on all of us, and that's it.
Yeah, that was a good one. And then thinking through then how they can like actually fight on lava. Because,
Hmm.
the screenplay is just like one sentence and then they fight
Yep,
in a burning
and
pit.
that's it.
And then you're like,
and
what
then
does
yeah,
that mean?
yep. Figure out the rest in between there, guys.
Yeah.
I did also, again, this is very much a visual effects heavy, and when I say visual effects at this point, it's very digital. But seeing them literally, not even a little toy model, right? But a very like almost half a house size of an actual pirate ship, the Black Pearl. Them like almost
That was
all,
so
like
cool.
how big that actual ship was that they built.
It was like one of those like party pirate boats you can take out
Yeah, I
in
mean,
a bay.
it was incredible.
It
You,
was like they didn't
you
scrap.
would never get that from watching the movie.
But it makes sense because if you can build something once and reference it a million times for a rendering that's going to take 6 months, then it's worth it.
Yeah. One of the things I'm glad that season two analyzed was the impact of competing special and visual effects studios. Do you also appreciate seeing the business side of things included in documentaries like this one?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what makes it juicy, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the problem solving aspect is cool, but the problem is time, budget, personnel, competing personnel, like that, all that pressure, the pressure cooker is what makes it really interesting. And as I get more into my career, you just realize there's always trade offs.
Yeah.
So, what's the trade off you want to make? And I really appreciated that. I mean, it was heartbreaking in some ways, but they kind of also reference in season one how it like bounces back. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
this backlash against CG because everyone does it, but they don't do it well. And so it creates more competition between, the physical side and the digital side.
Mm-hmm.
But I truly liked whoever was leading the project with the perfect storm, and they were like, that one scene cost $1 million and we have to do it
We
again,
got to do it over
like
and over again, the
over
entirety of
and
this
over and
movie.
over again. So it's just stuff you don't really think about. You're like, oh, I know making a movie is expensive. You hear like $4 billion or whatever, and then you're like, where did it go?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, so much of it.
Yeah, I like some of the best aspects of the Phantom Menace documentary that they show in this one too, with Rick McCallum and all that. Him being brought into this is thing like the budget meetings about finance and stuff like that, and just George sitting there, and you're like, wow, they're just having a budget meeting. Like you and I are in budget meetings, and like
And we're not doing
I
cool
I can't
stuff.
believe that, like, yeah, there is a real life aspect to this. There is a cost to things, there is analysis on things, there's someone in finance, there's someone in HR
Or the
running things over there,
lawyer.
there's the lawyer. Yep.
There's someone who's a non-creative that's going to the creatives and saying, find another way. And they're just
Yeah,
like, it's hard to find another way. And you're just like,
show business, baby.
you know, I was for a while. I was like, oh, George is so grumpy, and like, does he even like what he produces? And I've kind of been critical of how he talks about his own work.
Yeah.
But I will say I really admired his leadership style in some ways, of what they showed, at least, of how it was like, I trust you, do it.
You'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. And then if you need to bounce an idea off, you have the meeting. And for the most part, it seemed like he could corral those different groups together very well
Somehow.
with his own money too.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah. Every
man.
like, oh man, what a stress that is of its own right. Like
Yeah.
I am
It's your
self
own
financing this.
dollar
Yep,
when
yep,
you're in a budget meeting. It's not someone else's money, it's
yep.
yours.
I'm willing to put up this much amount of money, and if this movie isn't successful, all of us are out of a job.
But it's one of those things, and I think that's why ILM's so great, is because the best want to work there, and it's the hardest problems to solve because
Hmm.
they are working under constraint. But it also, that's what produces greatness, right?
Yeah,
Is the
the
best
pressure
working
cooker
with
of it.
each other and then having forced to be creative to a level that, because you can't just say, oh, we'll just render everything.
Yeah, I did like seeing that, like, for non Lucasfilm projects, they have to turn down some because of the budget reasons. So when they're talking like Avatar, they're like, yeah, we did some tests for it and all that, but based off of our calculations, we couldn't do in the time frame that James Cameron wanted exactly everything that he wanted.
Yeah.
Like we were outbid.
Yeah. Because there's always going to be someone who says they can do it faster. Now, can you do it better? It depends. James Cameron's worked a lot longer on those projects than I
That's
think
true.
he
And ILM
probably
is actually
anticipated.
back on it now too.
Yeah.
It's
So, I think, yeah, it's interesting because then you have directors coming in with visions and you kind of have to help them figure out what is actually feasible. As a consultant, it's a lot of stakeholder
yes,
management.
yes, yes. This is very, very hitting home. Very much so. Um, and I think it's just so interesting to think through all the ins and outs of the the whole financing of it. Yeah, it's crazy.
I know. I actually think a budget meeting would be really fascinating. I mean, not as
Fighting
fun.
over like I need this shot. What am I going to compromise
Yeah,
on?
like I want to hear that. I mean, I want to be there when they test the Maelstrom pirate ship too,
Yeah.
but I think both are
I
interesting to
mean,
me.
it's all that when you think about it, and it's just one. That's one aspect of the thing, right? We just watched the studio, and on Apple TV, and when the head of the studio is in the one episode, I'm going to be very big about this to anybody that hasn't seen it yet because I think it's really good. um, the one person kind of sucks up to him, and she's like, hey, so I want this specific song at the end of the for the credits. Can you get the licensing for it? And it's expensive, and that has to be also added into the budget, right?
Yeah,
These things are just not everything on screen is a choice,
the line
and it's
items
a line item.
are crazy. Like someone's brought in to do the end credits. Like you always
Yeah,
see
someone has to
that.
make the end credits.
Yeah, so it's I don't know. I find it fascinating. The more I learn about it, I mean, I know everyone's like once you're in it, the joy of it rubs away, but I don't know. I think it'd be pretty darn cool.
Show business. Now, last question here, Elise, for you. What do you think the chances of getting a season three entail? And do you want to see the story of ILM continue to, let's say, the present time?
Yeah, I mean, do you know has it been successful second
Hard to
season?
say. We don't really get numbers about streaming.
Yeah, I know we can't really tell. I mean, you kind of talked about it at the top. Like, I don't. People were really talking about season one. I haven't
And then
heard
it
it.
got dumped in the
Yeah, and
midst
then
of
this one, I
Star
was
Wars
like, their timing
Celebration.
was not good.
Yeah. No marketing, just literally said, here it is. No
Yeah,
trailer.
which I think is a bummer because people really like the first one, but
Yeah.
people are busy and can't watch everything at once, and you forget. I would really, really want a third season. One, because I'll take as much ILM as I can get. There's been a lot of new movies since. I'm sure they've had new
And they do the sequel
challenges.
trilogy, right? The
Yeah,
Star Wars through line of that.
they could do the Star Wars through line of that. They could come back to Avatar a little bit since they're on
The
it.
volume. I'm sure they didn't
They
talk
could,
enough about it.
yeah, they could do more in the volume. And I think for me, the story now, at least I've seen across different mediums, is the rise of practical again.
Yeah.
Like,
A healthy mix.
it's like I think the volume shows you need both.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we went to Epic Park at Universal recently, and we noticed that there is so much more practical
Mm-hmm.
effect. And they enhance the screen to the point where you're like, what's real, what's not?
Yeah.
Or like, is that robot real? It's truly another level. And I would
Yeah.
love to see the behind the scenes of like how that practical department gets built a little bit more again, how they make the decision to bring in more, because it is resurging. I feel like there
Yeah.
is more of an appreciation and a desire for that art.
I agree. I just from my point of view, I would like to see another season. I think there is definitely more story to be told in this, like we're getting at here.
They could do park attractions.
They could. I mean, they had a hand in Star Tours, and I'm sure with the Galaxy's Edge, they
Mm-hmm.
definitely had a hand in that. Doug Chang did a lot of concept artwork for that. So like ILM is certainly involved in all that and the expansion of Disney Plus and Star Wars on that and continuing those stories and of course Indiana Jones 5 and Willow and just so much that they could talk about. Not just the Lucasfilm. I mean Marvel. They they
Yeah,
work
Harrison
they
Ford's
work on Marvel.
de-aging.
Yeah, the
Much
whole
better. Oh, the deep
20-minute
fade.
opening scene, the deep fakes of Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
um,
I think those are all like,
Tarkin in Rogue One, right?
yeah, like stuff that's really controversial and you could talk through how it was created. I mean, I think that's all super interesting and also really relevant.
Hmm.
and then I think they could do a look forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know they can't give all their secrets away, but
A little tease at the next 10, 20 years. Like, where do they see it going?
yeah, exactly. So I hope even if it's not something we regularly get, they still continue to do because they also are like at the forefront of certain development of technologies that we should all just
Yeah,
be aware of.
absolutely.
So,
They're pushing the envelope, and I, for one, would like to see it.
yeah, give it to us. We
Yeah.
deserve it.
If you hear this, Disney, we are interested. We will watch it. We will enjoy it, and we will talk about it here to our many, many listeners here at Force Ghost Conversations. And to you listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed getting back into the Star Wars of it all in some way. A thrill to chat about ILM. A thrill to talk about Light and Magic Season 2. Go check it out if you haven't seen it for yourself. There's a lot more that we didn't even scratch the surface of in this documentary, but it's best to hear from the people themselves, I feel like, too. Like, we can
Yeah, you
only
don't want us
talk
talking about
about,
computer
yeah, we can only
graphics.
talk about it so much, but let the people with actual PhDs that are wearing leather jackets that look like rock stars up there telling you about things. I mean, it's very Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park talking about chaos theory, and you're just like, wow, cool, dude. It is great. Go check it out. Light and Magic Season 2 on Disney Plus, and we'll be back in your podcast feeds next week with a brand new episode in the Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent galaxy. And until then, may the Force be with you. Take care.